Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Could President Biden's infrastructure plan cause more unemployment, lead to more individuals losing their jobs because of the pressure associated with higher taxation on small businesses? That's what we are going to cover in this episode of Ignition Time. I'm about to explore comments from Andy Puzder, who's a big supporter of former President Trump and the Republicans' economic policies. In fact, Andy is the author of a book, The Capitalist Comeback, The Trump Boom, America's Soaring Economy, and the Left's Plot to Stop It. Now, it's very clear where Andy's priorities are, but one of the reasons you come to the Ignition Time channel is so that you hear from both sides, so that you can make your own informed decision. So here's the article on your screen written by Andy. Biden's discouraging message for small business makes it hard for America to return to full employment. The Democrats, as far as Andy is concerned, are clearly committed to increasing labor costs. Andy writes, this is job creation rule number one. Businesses invest in growth and hiring when they can forecast a profit. But that's hard to do when the Biden administration's message to American businesses boils down to, we're going to increase your labor and energy costs, unionize your business, and then overregulate and overtax you. According to Andy, this message will not inspire businesses to create the millions of jobs required to reach the Biden administration's goal of full employment. Now, Andy points out something rather interesting. What he's pointing out, and by the way, this is true, the real unemployment rate is significantly higher because the labor force participation rate has gone down. In other words, people have stopped looking for work and they were previously working, and the reason they stopped looking for work is directly related to the pandemic. They have more childcare responsibilities, they have more caregiver responsibilities, and unfortunately this is disproportionately impacting women more than men, and it is disproportionately impacting African American and Hispanic women more so than any other part of our economy. So this is what Andy writes. The unemployment rate is only 6% today because millions of people stopped working or looking for work during the pandemic. He is correct. The labor force participation has gone down. Now, this is where things get really interesting. He says, were March's labor force participation rate, which was 61.5%, at its pre-pandemic level, 63.4%, the actual unemployment rate would be even higher at 9.1%. This means that the real extent of unemployment is significant and the amount of jobs that need to be created are significant. And what Andy is saying is, hey, if you raise taxes, you're going to make it harder to create jobs, not easier to create jobs. So how is the Biden administration going to reach its goal of full employment while raising taxes? Because the two objectives essentially are at odds with each other. Andy also writes, should people start returning to the labor force despite generous unemployment benefits or after they expire, getting to full employment requires a much heavier lift. In other words, millions of jobs need to be created. And how are these jobs going to be created if companies have to cut expenses because they are now paying more taxes? And Andy forecasts that they'll cut expenses by hiring less employees, and therefore that could result in a hit to unemployment as opposed to the regaining of full employment, which is the goal of the Biden administration, or for that matter, any administration. Now, it's not all doom and gloom, however. Andy also writes, on the positive side, the labor market undoubtedly will improve as we emerge from the pandemic, regardless of the Democrats' business discouraging policies. The combination of pent-up demand and consumers flush with cash from government largesse, meaning all the stimulus checks, will positively impact both sales and profits for a while. In the meantime, folks, here's a new update from Bloomberg about what's happening with the state of the stimulus and the infrastructure negotiations. You'll see this headline from Bloomberg: Democrats say caregiving is infrastructure. The Democrats are actually playing fast and loose with the definition of infrastructure, because as far as Republicans are concerned, infrastructure is traditional infrastructure, physical infrastructure, roads, bridges, highways. But as far as Democrats are concerned, they're actually including what they call human infrastructure or the caregiving infrastructure within their definition of infrastructure, and are trying to push for more funding, which the Republicans do not support. According to Illinois Congresswoman, the Democrat Jan Schakowsky, she said, care infrastructure is infrastructure. And she was referring to President Biden's proposed expansion of access to home and community services. She said it was very important. Also, another representative, Doris Matsui of California, said that without this foundational aspect of caregiving at home, our country cannot move ahead into the 21st century. Building bridges and roads and expanding broadband are traditional infrastructure, Matsui said. And supporting American families through healthcare is essential infrastructure. Now, as you can imagine, Republicans in the meantime not too excited about spending too much money. These are words from the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. There's bipartisan appetite for smart infrastructure bills that are built the right way. There isn't much appetite for using the word infrastructure to justify a colossal, he repeats the word, multi-trillion-dollar slush fund for unrelated bad ideas. Also, in the meantime, Shelley Moore Capito, who's the senator from West Virginia, she actually is a Republican, and the other important senator from West Virginia is the conservative Democrat Joe Manchin. Shelley Moore Capito said this: "I'm hoping that we can narrow the focus." She said she's working with Democrats on chunks of a potential deal, including highways, airports, water projects, and broadband. She also said, those are the core areas of agreement. We're going to hopefully convince the administration we need to stick to those to get that bipartisan support. And Pat Toomey, who's a Republican senator from Pennsylvania, simply said that can be pro-growth when he was referring to roads and bridges. So essentially, the Republicans want traditional infrastructure, physical infrastructure. Folks, I believe that the both sides can come to an agreement, should come to an agreement, and pick the best definition of infrastructure. We don't want a very expansive definition of infrastructure, neither do we want a very restrictive definition of infrastructure. For me, it's not about the red or the blue, it's about the red, white, and blue. I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican, I'm American. We are all Americans first. Now, here's the important thing. The divisions between the Republicans and the Democrats are harming our country. In fact, the Supreme Court justices said so. Here's an article from Bloomberg, a new headline from Bloomberg. Justices Sotomayor and Gorsuch warned that divisions threaten U.S. democracy. Supreme Court justices were speaking about civics in a joint appearance, and Sotomayor said the times are both scary and exciting. Folks, we live in very, very unusual times. Let me know what you think in the comment section below about the definition of infrastructure and whether the infrastructure plan, according to Andy, the proponent of former President Trump, who we mentioned at the start of this video, has the potential to cause more unemployment, which would defeat the Biden administration's purpose of trying to get back to full employment where we were prior to the pandemic. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.